Hello and welcome to the first in a new series of Greengage podcasts, where we're going to be talking to some key influencers in the world of sustainability. We really want to reveal some of the best practice and practical advice out there that can help businesses be successful in embracing the concept of environmental and social responsibility. My name's Andrew Perolls from Greengage, and I'm delighted to welcome today Lou Watson, Marketing Director and Sustainability Lead at Wyboston Lakes. Hello, Lou.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you very much. Delighted.
So, in case there's anyone who isn't familiar with Wyboston Lakes, I'm wondering, Lou, could you just give us a quick thumbnail sketch of what you do?
Sure. So yes, as you said, I'm marketing director and sustainability lead. Wyboston Lakes Resort is in Bedfordshire and sits on the Cambridgeshire border. So there's part of the land that actually is in Cambridgeshire, part in Bedfordshire. And it's 380 acres. We have two residential business venues. We have a hotel, spa, golf. We have a range of serviced offices on site, and we also have the water sports centre on site as well. So quite a lot going on there. And I think in total there's some 28 buildings across site. So yeah, it's quite varied.
Wow. Wow. And we can see some of it behind you. Beautiful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful location.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think what I would say is it's pretty clear to me, and I think you, Lou, as well, that within events and accommodations as sectors, there are now real clear expectations from clients that their supplier partners are taking the right steps to be sustainable. So we thought it would be good today to talk about how, as a venue, you can kickstart your sustainable journey and avoid getting left behind, really.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things we'll be talking about will be the role of certification, how you can engage your team as well as guests, learning from challenges and creating a vision and plan. And to be honest, it's easy as a venue to feel perhaps a bit overwhelmed at the beginning of this. It's a bit like being on the starting line of a marathon without having trained or wearing the right gear when it comes to starting your sustainability journey. So the first step often, I think, feels the hardest. And so starting small can make a big difference. So with that in mind, Lou, we've all been there. So what inspired Wyboston Lakes to start your sustainability journey?
I think, to be honest with you, you're absolutely right. It's starting small, and there was no one particular thing that sort of stuck out for us. There was no one particular thing that said, right, we must do this. This is, inspiring, and this is where we need to get to. Because you're right, it's a bit like standing on a marathon start line and actually not even knowing the route. Never mind you've got a mountain to climb, you don't even know the route. So it was literally with us starting small and doing single projects that we knew were achievable, we knew how to do them, and as we went along and had these sort of small victories that sort of resonated with the team and resonated with the guests, that then kind of turned into the next project and then the next project. And then all of a sudden the team can see this happening and are 150% behind it. And they are actually thinking about the next and the next. So yeah, those were the things really that inspired us to start with.
Great. And from what I hear there, it was perfectly okay not to have all the answers right away. It's like you have to start somewhere. So probably a good question to ask that next would be for a venue that does feel a bit overwhelmed, how should they approach sustainability?
I think the feeling of being overwhelmed actually never goes. I think that there are days when when we still feel like that. because there's so many. And when you get different messages as well, you can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelmed. And let's face it, none of us has all the answers. So that's perfectly okay. Um, and I always keep in the back of my head something that I read a few years ago, is it's not about it's not about the big boys doing things perfectly, all of us doing things perfectly. It's about a lot of us, a load of us doing things imperfectly, because that's when we'll get where we need to go to for 2040 or 2050.
Yeah.
So I always keep that in the back of my head. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can't do that bit today. This is the bit that you can do today. And this little bit that you're doing today is going to just make you better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
incrementally, as time goes on, you just get better, and then you get better, and then you get better. And I kind
Yeah.
of keep that in my head. And that's what I
Yeah.
would say. It does feel overwhelming, and you're not on your own. Just do one
Yeah.
thing and just feel better about it.
Yeah. It makes absolute sense. Nobody
Mm,
can do everything, but everybody can
mm.
do something. I think that's
Exactly. Yeah.
it's a good way of looking at it.
Mm,
So probably I should just touch on the role of sustainability certification, because of course at Greengage we offer EcoSmart
hmm
certification, and what we've found is it does provide a strong foundation for venues at the beginning of their sustainability journey, because for a lot of venues, they're really not quite sure how good they are. And this is a very
mm,
good way of auditing exactly where you are, and
hmm
therefore being able to work out where the gaps are. And so we position EcoSmart as a way of having, I think it's a valuable guide, provides some structure, some measurable goals, and importantly, clear action lists for for
mm,
venues. So venues just know what to do.
yeah.
It's just a secure place to start, I think, because it's about just navigating the unknowns and,
Yeah.
and prioritizing what actions you can do. So you've had a good experience of certification, I know,
Mm.
Lou. What's been your experience?
Um, well, actually, we started first with the green tourism certification. That was the first stab that we had at it. And we embarked on the certification with you guys then, because it was very focused on the main part of our business, really, which is venues and meetings and large spaces, etc. So for us, it was really important that certification was done. And when you first start with the certification, you do kind of feel a bit, I'm not going to be good enough, and this is going to be dreadful. This is going to look awful. But then as you start working through, and especially with you guys, because there's almost like a coaching um, sort of mechanism that goes on as you work through the accreditation, you actually start seeing that you do a lot more than you actually think you do,
Yeah.
for a start. And you think, oh yeah, we do that and we do that. And then you start sort of sharing stuff that you've never shared before, not just with team members, but with customers as well. And then, like you said, you start creating structure behind it and this fantastic to-do list, which is kind of what I call it, of, well, we haven't got that today, but these are my goals. So these are my short-term goals and these are my longer-term goals. Um, and it really created a framework for us. And I always say to anybody when they say, how do we start? Where do we start? And also this whole thing, people say, oh, which accreditation? There's so many. And, what do they mean? And there's so many of them. It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter as long as you are doing an accreditation, because when you do that, you will actually start to see the invisible stuff that goes on that you don't know about, and realize also what you can do, which is great as well. And I mean, there's still one or two pieces on your accreditation that we're still working towards. So, um, you know,
Congratulations, by the way, on having platinum status, where you were one of the first to get that,
yeah,
which was
exciting.
fantastic. Yeah.
Mm, yeah,
So, one of the things that really helps is when you can make sustainability part of the culture of an organization, or of a venue for that matter. That's not necessarily, that's easier said than done. So you've done that, I think. How have you gone about doing exactly that?
Well, I mean, with the team, like I said at the start, we kind of got them engaged with a lot of the projects that we were doing. So, as an example, we picked up the MIA's 20% less plastics scheme just before the pandemic. I think that launched in 2019. And we ran with that scheme quite big across the resort and got all of the team members involved with that. So they would spot, things that were out, plastics that were out. Can we get rid of this? Is this one that we can do away with? Could we, find something different to this one? And we've discovered, I think it was 2021, we did the next audit, we're about 40% less. And today we're at 60%, just over 60% less. That is something that the team members really got engaged with. So it's a bit like there's a story I heard about a company in New York, and they'd never thought of sustainability before. And one of the team members always goes to Starbucks in the morning for a coffee. And she decided every day she was throwing this coffee cup away that she was going to buy a reusable Starbucks coffee cup. So she bought this reusable Starbucks coffee cup, and then she bought more for everybody in the office, because everybody in the office all of a sudden was still were throwing away their coffee cups, and all of a sudden they got these reusable ones that she bought for everybody, and they thought, well, actually now there's no waste. So at the end of the day, the waste was very little, and they all thought, oh, that's a really good idea, we've got no waste. So then they start thinking about what other stuff can we do. Oh, let's make sure we're turning the lights off when we walk out of the office, and let's make sure that we're doing this and we're doing this. So it kind of then, and that's exactly what happened with us. We did one thing and we did it well, and then the team then kind of were spilling over with stuff for us to do. And we did a focus session with our team, which we called Your Voice Belongs. And we did a whole section on the environment. And the ideas, I think I had about 140 different ideas from the team.
Wow.
That we've worked through since then, doing all sorts of stuff. The People's Pantry that we do was a team member idea as well, I believe. So yeah, and Room to Grow was a team member idea.
Yeah.
And in fact, the follow-up to Room to Grow is another team member idea, which we're launching next year. So that, I think that's the way to do it. Keep them engaged, and guests as well. Keep guests engaged, and allow them to be part of the solution as well.
Absolutely.
Mm.
It's I always seem to find that the most successful approach to this is those businesses that have senior buy-in. That's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And then where the rest of the team are engaged, and having a green team or something like that, where people feel they're part of it rather than it's something
Yes.
that's being done on their
Yes.
behalf or to them. That
Yeah.
makes a big, big difference. I think that's where you've been really, really successful. It's been top down in terms of huge buy-in at a
Definitely.
senior level, but everybody's involved, and you've kept it going. It's not something you can do for
Yeah.
4 weeks and forget. It
No.
has to keep going, and there's
It's
never
just part of your fabric then, I think. Just part of your
yeah,
DNA. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We have culture champions at Wyboston, and we have different types of culture champions. One that might be for well-being, and culture champions for the environment. And they meet every quarter, and they pick up all sorts of projects. So, for instance, it might just be litter picking across the reserve, or in the actual resort itself, because we have the nature reserve as well. So we do quite a lot down there with the team, and they're just fundamental, really. The culture champions, they just make it all come alive, really.
yeah, yeah. So thinking back again to venues who are embarking on this journey, and undoubtedly facing some challenges in maybe their early sustainability efforts. What's your recommendation about how to face up to those
Challenges.
early challenges?
I think every venue has pros and cons. There's always really great things about a venue, and there's always the, things that are not so great, and some of those things you can't change. So if you're a venue that is, I don't know, grade 2 listed, for instance,
Yeah,
that's a challenge. But you might be grade 2 listed and not far from the mainline train station. So you have a unique benefit in that respect. Certainly venues that are in the city centre and they don't have all the lovely space that we have, but they're in the city centre, so they have other benefits as well. So I think it's understanding the the what challenges you face, what they are, and certainly the big ones, the big challenges, and then recognizing what you can change with those challenges, but also understanding what your good points are as well. What's great about the resort. We've got lots of space. So for us, doing a campaign like Room to Grow, which is our tree planting campaign, which is all planted by our lovely team at Wyboston. Doing that for us was simple, but for other venues that isn't simple.
mm,
But then, we have other difficulties on our resort as well. 28 buildings on a resort is difficult. That's
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
And we recognize that, not every building is going to be perfect, is going to have all of the environmental requirements that we would like. But I
yeah,
think that's what I would say: recognize the challenges, recognize the strengths, and see what you can change, and what you can't,
yeah,
don't sweat about.
yeah, yeah. Find unique selling points.
Yeah.
Everybody has them,
Mm,
and my observation about I've been to Wyboston Lakes many times,
mm, mm,
and you're very bold, really, about your communication. It's not hidden,
mm,
it's such a plus point of what you
mm,
do.
mm,
And I remember coming up your main drive, and you've got these great big banners there, haven't you? And there was
mm,
one with, I think, plastic sucks or something. That,
mm, mm,
this is brilliant, because straight away there's something's going on here. It's a real keen
mm,
message, and
mm.
this is going to be a green environment. So you've, in your marketing and communication, you really have chosen some particular areas and really highlighted those to get
Mm,
simple messages to
mm.
people. Okay, what
That's
would be a
true.
good example of that?
I think the LED project that we did is a good example of that. Again, that was a mammoth task, and huge investment went into that. And there's still a few stragglers that we're changing next year that remain. So the LED project was key for us, and we said we don't like something like, we don't want you to use any energy unless it's LED or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Yes.
was one of the strap lines that we had,
Yeah.
just to make people aware that when they're
Yeah.
turning on and off the lights, they're turning on and off an LED light, which is better for the environment. um
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
And if there's one thing any venue could do, which would definitely make a difference to energy use and reducing carbon emissions, it's fitting LEDs, which
Mm.
have a huge benefit for both of those, achieving both of those.
Yeah, exactly. Then obviously our solar project, which has been ongoing, which
Yeah.
we've talked about, where the sun shines. So that was one of our strap lines, and we've been zero waste to landfill for a long, long time. And although it's a fantastic thing to be zero to landfill, as I always say, it is the lesser of two evils. And that actually the way to nirvana is no waste. But
Yeah.
that's a
Absolutely.
tough one. That's a really tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've all still got to have some challenges left.
yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah.
why
We've
Boston Lakes.
got something to do, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's very true that in working together, Greengage, EcoSmart with Wyboston Lakes and the certification. It's all been about a lot of dialogue. What we've never wanted to do is just have something which is basically a faceless questionnaire, because just having a certification doesn't necessarily mean anything. We want people to actually be part of this journey to improve all the time.
And I think that's one of the really great things about Greengage, actually, Andrew. It's not just a certificate that's handed or a badge that goes on the website. There's the human element to it, and the person that I can pick up the phone to and say, what do I do about this? And do you know anybody else that's had this problem? Or there's that whole community within Greengage that for me is really, really valuable.
Oh, no, thank you for that. And it's, we do what we believe that most venues that have EcoSmart, they are at a certain level. We have bronze to platinum, but everybody wants to say, well, how do we get to the next level? And so part of the whole principle was to make it easy for people to move up. If they're silver, to get to gold, we have the system and the ability to do that within a year. So,
Yes.
That's been a real incentive. I think it's about 40% of venues move up an award category in a year. So it's about we're trying to adapt to help venues grow in terms of their sustainability effort,
because
and
we
see a reward
started at
for it.
gold, didn't we? We
You
started at
did.
gold, and I think a year later moved up to platinum. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, Lou, just maybe what would be some final thoughts or closing advice you'd like to give to the people during this podcast?
My advice is start small, and every 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. So definitely start small, manageable, and something that is achievable. And that's going to make everybody feel great when you do achieve it. I think that's my main thrust of advice. My other caveat is, don't sweat the things you can't change, and don't try to be perfect. Don't try to be perfect, because that'll keep you awake at night. And also sharing. I'm a massive one, as you know, Andrew, for sharing. And I think, anybody out there that's doing some great things, just share with everybody, because it's how we're all gonna get there.
Absolutely. Very well said. Well, Lou, I'd like to thank you very much for your time and your valuable insights today.
Thank you.
And I'd say to everybody, just remember, if you concentrate on the small, manageable steps, you can cross unimaginable distances.
Yeah.
So we hope you found this today useful, and we'll look forward to seeing you again for our next Greengage podcast.